Welkom, bienvenue, willkommen. Welcome to het andere atelier, or the other atelier, and welcome to our guest, Felix Weisbrich from Berlin, and the 4 experts we've invited to discuss with us tonight. Het andere atelier is a series of events organized by Bell, Café, Field 3, and Heroes for Zero. It contributes to the preparation of the new Road Safety Action Plan 2021-2030 of the Brussels government. The aim of the other atelier is to take the debate on road safety out of the formal context of the planning process and bring it to the place that matters, the street. We invite everyone to learn from inspiring cities, observe the challenges on the ground, and imagine what a safe and healthy city of the future could look like. Tonight's lecture is a part of a series of 3. First, there was Paris with the 15-minute city, and last week we talked about the Vision Zero of Oslo. And today we zoom in on Berlin. Felix Weisbrich is our guest and keynote speaker tonight. He manages the Roads and Park Department in one of Berlin's 12 neighborhoods, and he will explain how pop-up bike lanes fit into a strategy of experimentally redistributing public space in favor of green neighborhoods. Afterwards, Professor Bas de Geus from MOBI Research Group at VUB, Tim Asperges, planner and mobility expert of the city of Leuven, Florine Cuignet from GRACQ Brussels, and architect engineer Roland Dudal of Architecture Workroom Brussels get the floor to ask some questions and to reflect on what lessons we can bring to the context of Brussels. I'm happy to give the floor to moderator Tim Cassiers from BRAL Brussels, who will guide us through this evening. I wish our guests and everybody who is following this webinar from home an interesting evening.
Welkom iedereen, bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome to our guests, but also to you at home. After the lecture of Felix, you will be invited to participate in the debate. Your questions, concerns, your experiences as Brazilians are welcome in the chat on Facebook. You can put your questions there. We will put them in front of our panelists, in front of our speaker. Be brief in formulating that we can have a question presented well to the people that are here with us tonight. Now to our speaker of this evening. I'm very curious to find out how Berlin succeeds in anticipating several challenges at the same time. The corona crisis has forced some quick reactions from public authorities. Yet other major challenges, such as the lack of quality public space, air pollution, the climate crisis, will require more major changes to come in the coming years, starting today. Planning departments not always excel in speed. Nevertheless, our times call for a sense of urgency when redesigning urban public space. Berlin wants to put this new planning culture into the practice in order to meet with today's needs. What can we learn from this for Brussels? We also look forward to learn how the experimental way of working in Berlin, how it exactly works. Felix Weisbrich, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everybody. Greetings from Berlin. Is the split screen does it work?
It does work.
Okay, very fun.
Go ahead, Felix.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everybody from Berlin. This is my presentation. I will need 30 minutes, I think, and yes, my presentation is titled "Do the Right Thing in a Crisis," because we experienced that a crisis is also a crisis, and with a lots of sacrifice from everybody, but also on the other hand and side windows of opportunities, and we take some of these opportunities, I hope, and I will show you in which case. So this is my agenda. First, district Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, what is it? And then I will talk a bit about our climate goals, and then the safety goals, road safety goals, then the legislative basis for planning. We have an mobility law in Berlin. And then, as I already said, the crisis is also a window of opportunity, and I will talk a bit about that. And then agile and temporarily planning as a method we explored this year, and then which results we got from this planning, and at the end, how we will continue the fight for sustainable and livable cities. And in our administration, we experience every day what kind of fight this is. Yes, Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, one of 12 districts in Berlin. I heard about Brussels and about the situations of a lot of districts and their attempts to organize a big city. In Berlin, we have the same situation. We have 12 districts with 12 local and political authorities. So every day is a fight to plan together and to think together how to organize this huge city of nearly 4 million inhabitants. And in Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, we have 290,000 inhabitants, and the population density is 14,200 inhabitants per square kilometer. And we are a very dense district, and we have 6.4 square meters per habitant of green area. So we have a lack of green areas and parks. So as an administration for parks and streets, we are looking every day how we can manage this situation, how we can put a bit more green areas in our high dense population and high dense district. So Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, as maybe a lot of you know, is a very young, vibrant, and a very political district. We have a long history of house squatting, house occupations. We have fights for green areas in the past against highways. They were planned in the 1980s. And we have parks like Görlitzer Park, very, very cultural sites, very interesting sites, but also very problematic sites because, as you can see, very dense, but also a lot of cultural life. It's a quite interesting place to be in local authority. Then what is the traffic situation in Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg? We have a modal split that is brings 70% of cars, 33% pedestrians, 21% of cyclists, and 29% public transport. So I think cyclists is quite a lot. But on the other hand, the actual use of road land is quite the opposite. We have areas of 65% for cars, designed for cars, and only 35% for all the rest of transport, cyclists, public transport, and pedestrians. So we call it area justice, and it's our analysis is right now we have area injustice because only 17% of transport needs for cars, and 65% these cars is the split of area for that car. So it's area injustice, and we have to change it. We have also a situation for road safety that is very complicated. We have fatal accidents with death injuries in 2019. As you can see, pedestrians 25, cyclists 6, and in cars we have 7, and motorcycles 2 death injuries per year. So we are quite far away from vision 0. We have the same vision, but it's a long way to go. And here you can see a typical situation because why these death accidents occur. Because here, as you can see, it's a main road, and we have parking lots on the right side, and then we have these illegal parking situations in the middle. Here, the car you can see, and then two children on their way to school. Probably they overtake this illegal parking car, and another car is coming from behind. So it's a very dangerous situation we experience every day in Berlin, and we say we have to change this critical situation, and we have to build protected bike lanes to separate the cyclists from the cars, so that the safety is growing. Yeah, then we have climate goals, of course. Here is a medium temperature from 1880 in Germany to 2018. And as most of you know, we have a acceleration and of the global warming, and especially in our dense district, we have a lot of heat days, very hot days, and we have a lot of death in the summer, because for heart attacks and other things, especially older people, they are suffering a lot. So we have to change our our roads, and we have to bring more green into these roads to make them cooler, to bring the temperature down in summer. In Germany, we have a climate action plan. Here you can see this, the different industries, and the traffic is that one that is underlined here. And we missed our goals. We have to bring the CO2 reduction in 2030 to 98 million tons of CO2 per year, and we are far away from that goal. So especially, as you can see, the traffic sector in our car-beloved society of Germany, the traffic has to be much more faster in reaching these climate goals. So, and in Berlin, we have this Berlin mobility law. It's a strict law that is were published in 2018, and we are a bit proud of this law. But I can also told you about I can tell you about the problems. In sentence 43 of this Berlin mobility law, we have this sentence that cycling facilities with low vibration, well passable covering shall be installed on all main roads at a safe distance from parked motor vehicles and sufficient width. So we have this thinking of bringing protected bike lanes on every main road in our city, and we have a lot of main roads in Berlin. Here you can see we have 1,500 kilometers of main roads. So the thinking in Berlin is we have a perfect network of streets, and our main streets are, it's a historical growing of these main streets, and we just bring cycle lanes on all that main streets, so we will get a perfect or maybe a good network of cycle lanes. So this is the thinking of our mobility law. But the reality is far away from that. We have, as I said, 2,500 kilometers of cycle lanes, of main roads, and this is our aim. But the result from 2018 is we only built 96 kilometers. So we have to get much more faster than our reality situation is right now. And how can we do that? We believe that we have to experience and develop agile methods in the administration, and agile working, agile doing is as we experience every day a bit away from normal administration doing. So we discovered two things for being agile in traffic planning. The first is we developed regulatory planning for cycle lanes, just standard solutions for standard situations in our roads. And then we developed provisional design, like maybe know of construction sites, and we use this provisional design not for construction sites but for infrastructure like cycle lanes. So these two things we developed at the beginning of the crisis, of the Corona crisis, in March 25 of 2020, because we had a new paradigm of urban planning, and that brings acceleration in our administrative processes, because we have this SARS-CoV-2 containment measure regulation, which says that we have to keep the distance of 1.5 meters each to each other. And we just experienced that the existing infrastructure is unsafe because we can't hold this distance. And we also experience that we have that most of the people, they don't use the public transport, but we also in Berlin 43% of the people, they don't have a car, so they had to use some other ways of mobility, and we had a huge increase of cyclists, so we have to offer them a safe infrastructure for a good mobility. And that was the time when we developed this agility method for building temporary bicycle lanes in 10 days. That was our project outline. And then we developed action sheets. And of course, at the third point, we have to bring the police force and traffic authority to give their opinions to our project. But we only gave a 2-day deadline, which is a very short deadline. And then we give the construction order to the traffic authority. In the first bicycle lanes, we gave that construction order verbally, which was very funny in this situation. Afterwards, we just wrote it, of course, and then we had a very short public information and establishing of no stopping zones. We have a deadline for that of 3 days, and then the marking operation begins. And after that, we had a photographic documentation by drones with an aerial view. And then we developed a traffic sign diagram based on that documentation, which took 1 day. And then the final construction. Maybe we could bring some changes in when we saw that it don't work in that way. We could change it very easily. And then evaluation 3 days and rectification when necessary. So we are in a tactical way of planning. We can test and we can look how it works, and if it don't work like we thought, we can change that very easily, because we have only temporarily constructed bike lanes. So, and then after that, we just started to plan the transition of this temporary bike lanes into permanent bike traffic installation, and we have 2 to 10 months for doing that. And we believe that this way of just first testing, temporary temporary building of these bicycle lanes, and after that bringing that these cycle lanes after the testing period into a permanent bicycle lanes, it's not only much more faster but also cheaper, because we don't have to plan so much. We can just evaluate the situation we see on the streets, and then we can arrange and bringing the planning into, and we can just adapt this real situation, this tested and this good tested situation, into a permanent infrastructure. So it's faster and it's also cheaper. And we just will make all that bicycle lanes we constructed in March, April and May of 2020, now in December and January, into permanent bike lanes. Yeah, we developed a short guide with our friends, with our Dutch friends from Mobicon, and we worked with them together. They just documented our way of working like this. Here's the link. You can upload this, and yeah, this is the result. As I say, a good cycle lane is a cycle lane that exists at first. Of course, that is not a perfect cycle lane, as you see, but it's this way of very fast constructed cycle lanes. And as you can see, the road is already arranged in a new way. We have this separation from cyclists to the cars, and we can just look if that works good. That is all. That is the whole thing. And then we say a fast built cycle lane is a safe cycle lane. Of course, we have to, if we make this cycle lane permanently, we have to do a lot more. I will show you afterwards how we bring these cycle lanes into a permanent construction. But we could build this cycle lane, of course, only in one day. It was very fast. And here is the Hallisches Ufer. We have a public transport line, and we have 2 lines of cars and one cycle lane here. And this is the situation in Cottbusser Damm. It's a very dense situation. Parking lots on the right side, delivery zones, and as you can see, traffic jam all over. And for cyclists, it was nearly impossible to cross these roads. And this is the Cottbusser Damm afterwards. All the parking lots disappeared. We just said, okay, no more parking lots, and it was a pretty hard fight. We offer the inhabitants of the streets parking lots in a garage nearby, and they could move into this garage. It was very interesting that a lot of people prefer to look for parking lots in the public space, but not to use this offering of parking lots in a garage. Only 20 people use that, but this was a very important thing to communicate it and to offer a solution for their problem. So we just eliminated 250 parking lots in the Cottbusser Damm in one day. And we have an increase of cycle traffic in 1 month of 100%, because before we installed these cycle lanes, a lot of cyclists, they was very afraid of using the Cottbusser Damm for cycling because of the safety problems. So this is a small view on our pop-up temporary cycle infrastructure we built in Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, 27 kilometers of temporary bike lanes in total in Berlin. And as you can see, Schöneberger Ufer, Hallisches Ufer, Tempelhofer Ufer, Möckernstraße, Gitschiner Straße, Skalitzer Straße, Cottbusser Straße, Petersburger Straße, Lichtenberger Straße, and Danziger Straße. All main roads. And then we bring this infrastructure in one way of protection. This is an old cycle lane. We just built it in a normal way. We had a long planning of 3 years. So this is the cycle lane on the Hasenheide, green overlay and a protection. And we just had problems to communicate these protected cycle lanes, because a lot of people, they argued that this protection is not very suitable for the city side, and it's not very aesthetic and so on. So we use other elements of protection. Here we on the Hallisches Ufer, we tested 4 different types of flat protections. And we decided the green protection on the right side on the corner below. You can see with the cycles on it, there is a protection from Mexico, and we just decided to install all our cycle lanes, permanent cycle lanes, with these protection tools, and because they have a good reflection, as you can see, and they have this design that if you come with your cycle with your bike, if you collide with these elements, you will the accident is not very heavy. It's a permittable infrastructure, we call it. So, and then we have also other cities like Munich, Vienna, and Stuttgart who just also developed temporary cycle lanes. It was a very nice moment to see how other cities was inspired by our doing. And we have a result we got in June 2020, 26.5 more cyclists in Berlin. And of course, this is because of the Corona situation, but we believe that is also because of the good infrastructure we offered them. So this was also like a signal, okay, the administration builds infrastructure for you to cycle in safety, so just use this infrastructure. And then we had another method of agile and tactical doing, and just develop how to get the streets, how to play on the streets. We developed 19 temporary playground streets. We were doing this with local initiatives, and it was very easy. We just blocked these roads for one day, and the initiative and kindergartens and others, they could play in the streets. And when we are doing that, we were discussing with all the neighborhood if we should do this permanently. So we just also, it's the same way of thinking, just doing it in a temporary way, and then give a nice or good picture how the streets could look like. And then we have a discussion, okay, why do you don't do that permanently? And so this is the whole way of developing the cities, the roads in our district. Here you can see the Bergmannstraße. This is the situation right now. And after the discussions we had with the neighborhood, we developed a planning how we can develop the city, the street in the coming years. And this is the result after our participation process. We bring green and water into the streets, and a cycle lane and a pedestrian area on the other side. Of course, delivery zones and delivery times will installed so that also the shops can be delivered. So this is our way of developing from temporary situation to permanent situation. And we believe that this is a good way to discuss and to give a quick development into reality. So, as I said, we understand that agile doing and agile planning of administration is gradually, temporarily, and then permanently. These are our steps for changing our situation from a very dense district with a lot of inhabitants and a lack of green areas into a safe public space with more green areas, with a safe better road safety to bring this Vision Zero into reality. And this is our answer, how we can be very, very much more faster than in the last years, because normally in Berlin we need 2 to 10 years for developing a cycle lane, and we believe that we don't have that much time to change our cities. We are experiencing, like right now, time of global change and difficult situation in our cities. What is in road safety questions. so we have to be much more faster. And when we are doing this as a local authority for greens and parks and streets, we also got reward from the population. Here you can see the German word Danke, which means thanks for all doing that. We had a lot of initiatives who were who brought flowers, balloons, and letters to the construction workers. They installed this infrastructure, and they told me we never experienced that in our life before. That when we just build, like you can see, when you just do marking operations, normally marking operations, that people come to us and say thank you for doing this and give balloons and flowers to us. So it was a really nice situation, and we hope that together with the active part of the population, we can change our cities into a much more livable space. So thank you very much.
Danke, Felix, for this inspiring talk. But also, I think Berlin has been one of the examples also in Brussels to push Brussels government to action also with this Corona bike lane. So your city has among others set the example, which pushed action also in Brussels for all leaders to follow. And I also like very much the way you now look for going to permanent situations with that, planning with the citizens. So I hope this also becomes an inspiring example for Brussels. I'm very curious what the reactions of our panelists here. I will first give the floor to Team Asperges for first reaction. All the other panelists can join in when they like, when they have their reactions. But first, Tim, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and thanks a lot for the other Tim to give this very inspiring inspiration. Just short introduction. So I am working as a transport planner for the city of Leuven. Of course, the scale of the city of Leuven is of a much other proportion as the scale of Berlin or the scale of the Brussels region. But what is really, striking or a same issue in this debate today is that if there is one positive element in the COVID crisis, that COVID was regarding or is regarding urban transport, a catalyst to do a redistribution of public space. And what also was striking in the presentation of Tim, I noted two numbers in the beginning of the presentation. The model split or the model share of cars in the district in Berlin was only 70%, which is already quite impressive regarding then sustainable transport modes. But the space which was available or is available for the car was 65%. I think the space for the car is similar also in Brussels region. At least 65% will be taken by the car. And I presume at this moment probably also the model share, but I understand that also in the Brussels region, a lot of politicians saw the opportunity because we have to give space also to these other transport modes that we could take space. And the biggest challenge is now that this temporary situation, which also is of huge value, which has been implemented in the Brussels region, can become a permanent situation. When I'll just look to the Leuven experience, what we didn't do in Leuven, and that is then a little bit other than in Berlin or Brussels, we didn't build new temporary bicycle lanes. probably because we already have a lot of high-level bicycle lanes, but we did take action to implement the generalization of Zone 30 in our complete city, not only in the city center, but in overall Leuven. We took the opportunity to expand some of the bicycle streets to a real bicycle zone for the complete city center. So also in this redistribution of space, we took the opportunity to do it now temporarily. And I am quite positive that it will also get a permanent situation as our road users, the pedestrians, the cyclists, they really are explaining that this is really a relief and this is really a step forward. And I think it will be more or less the same situation in Brussels. Last remark, and then I think the other people in the debate can react. The traffic law, which Tim was talking about, it looks nice that in all the main roads you are obliged to have high-level separate bicycle infrastructure. On the one hand, it is okay that is a kind of law, but on the other hand, my question is, I really want to have the high-level bicycle routes not directly along my main car roads. It is, of course, because of traffic safety reasons that you need bicycle infrastructure. But for the high-level comfort for cycling, I, as a cyclist, I'm not going to choose to cycle along the main car roads. I choose for the parallel roads, which are the traffic calming zones, where probably you don't need bicycle infrastructure and probably you will get the complete public space as a cyclist and have priority to use that public space. That's my question mark. Is it okay to have that traffic law? It's of course okay, but I hope that this is not the reason not to invest in traffic calming zones parallel at the main car roads. That are my remarks.
Okay, thank you, Tim. I guess other people from Brussels will have also something to say about this, but I will first let Felix react to this because we are here to learn also from Berlin. So are these considerations that also taken into account in Berlin, Felix?
Yes. Thank you for the questions. For the first, the last question, yes, I agree that we don't only need cycle lanes on the main roads, but we are also developing, or the whole city of the land of Berlin is developing a cycle network also through the parallel or with use of the parallel roads. But yeah, this is a process that lasts till 2018 till now and isn't finished yet. In the mobility law, it said that this process has to be terminated to develop a cycle network in 2019. Now we have the end of 2020, so we are 1 year late. And this is a task for the whole city. So we need the other districts. And we have this situation that, as I said in the beginning, we had a lot of discussions and we had a lot of political discussion how this network should be set up, and that's not that easy. So I just take the situation or the obligation which is actual our obligation to build cycle lanes on the main roads, and I perfectly agree with you that we have to develop cycle streets in the parallel roads. We as a district, we developed just in the last 2 months 5 kilometers of cycle roads in the parallel streets, but we have to wait for the other districts. So this is a situation we have to build a network, and that lasts a lot of time to finish to bring this to a good situation. So this is the first question, and yes, we are also doing traffic calming in the parallel in the quarters of our cities. We call it Kieze, but this is a very tough discussion with every quarter in our district. We have to set up very difficult participation processes, and we have to discuss a lot. So I also agree that we have to calm the areas, and we have to give speed reduction in all the streets of kilometer of speed reduction, like 30 kilometers per hour. So yeah, that's I think Brussels is quite ambitious to doing so. In Berlin, also, this is a question that has to be answered for the whole city. So we are waiting for an end of that discussion. As you can see, we are only a district of 12, and we are doing everything we can, but we have the restriction which is on the level of city planning for the whole city. So we just give example how fast things could go if you want to, and we are doing the best and everything we can on our scale and our of authority. So this is our tactical and local way of doing things.
Okay, thank you, Felix. Is there someone else who want to react also to what Tim Asperges has been saying? And maybe, yes, Florine?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think it was quite inspiring, and obviously Brussels just took the same path than Berlin with the 40 kilometers of COVID bicycle lanes. Earlier this year, the region of Brussels just adopted a new mobility plan with a structuring bicycle network, mainly on the main roads. And it was necessary because the major roads are usually wider, and the street, the fast, it's easy to read for the road user. So the government decided to select some roads and to build some light infrastructure, mainly with paint, sometimes with concrete blocks, but it was not always possible. So I was really surprised to see on the photos of Berlin, there was always physical protection, or quite always. In Brussels, you have often access to garages, so you need to conserve the accesses to those garages. And also, I think you decided to get rid of all the parking places and to put a cycle lane instead. In Brussels, it's usually difficult because you have parking places, but between the parking places you have trees, and obviously we don't want to cut off trees, so you can't do what you want. Sometimes you need to just remove one of those car lane and put a cycle lane, and you only work with paint. It's quite difficult for new cyclists to feel safe with no physical protection. But I see you use those green, those small, very flat green protection. Is it enough to prevent the car drivers to park on the cycle lane, because it's quite a sport in Brussels? And could it be a solution to maintain the access when you want to park on a park's place, or to access a garage, just to ride through those green bumps? And I had another question. You said there is 12 districts, and you try to work together. In Brussels, obviously, the region has to cope with 19 municipalities, and in some places, they couldn't reach an agreement to build the cycle lanes. So in some parts of Brussels, they couldn't manage to build anything, actually, and it was a pity. So how do you cope with the other districts?
If you are responsible for road safety, and if you are like we are in my administration, you have to be very clear what measures you take, and to reach some very important aims, like reducing fatal accidents in the streets. And we just discuss a lot with other districts, but we also decide if we have the opportunity to get into action, we use every opportunity to do so. And so we are just we have times for discussing, and then we have time for action. So and then we are not asking so much. We just we have the local authority. So, and then we just say, okay, every other district is also responsible for road safety, and we just give example, like being fast and being strict to build safe infrastructure. And we had a lot of hard discussion with other districts. They are asking, okay, why are you doing like this, and it's not the regulatory basis. And we had of course we have also a lot of legal actions against our infrastructure. I saw it was also a question on the chat. We won this legal or this is taking at court against our cycle lanes at the first level, and now we are on the second level of legal action and discussing that at these cycle lanes at court. But we also believe that we have a legal basis, and we have a responsibility to build safe infrastructure for our population. So we have times, as I say, we have times for discussing, and then we have times for action. And in the Corona crisis, definitely there's a time for action. So, and then you were asking about these the parking places, the parking lots. We have the aim to bring in the whole district the parking lot management, so that no parking for free is possible in our public space. This is our aim, but that will take maybe years to bring this parking management in the whole district area. And on the way to doing so, every you have to pay for every parking in the public space. We just, of course, we do that to reduce the pressure for cars that are parking in the streets. So we just want to lower the pressure, so we have more. We can breathe, and we can develop in the public space new infrastructure and green areas. So and meanwhile, when we're not ready with this parking management, and we have to build new infrastructure, we just speak very clearly to the people. We say, okay, we have 65% for your cars, and you only bring 70% to the traffic system. So we just have to change the public space, of course, and we are just very, very clear, and we are very. We just say, okay, we have to redistribute the public space into new infrastructure, and of course we have a lot of discussion with the people, and we have to organize the delivery zones, and we have to organize the possibilities for the firefighters to reach the houses in times of fires at the houses. So of course we have to look at all these safety and all these other belongings of the inhabitants, but not the so-called right of every people to park his own car permanently in the public space. There is no right in Germany for free parking, and then we have to be strict on that thing. So was there a question? Another question, Florine?
Yes, I think there was maybe a question about the way you dealt with the divisioning from the cycling lanes from the main road, because there was also a question from the audience about that. Is it, well, Dirk Lauwers simply asked the question, is it SUV proof the way you do it? So is there, what kind of reflections are there in to use this kind of infrastructure and this kind of divisioning?
We are not ready with bringing this green protection tools on the road. They are just right now on the ship from Mexico to Hamburg and then to Berlin. We just only installed 20 meters of this protection for these green tools, and we will install them in January. So we believe that we have these protection elements. They are 13 centimeter high, and they have a steep side to the car lanes. So 13 centimeters, it's like a pedestrian walk, the same height. And our Mexican colleagues, they told us when they install this infrastructure in Mexico City, it's absolutely sufficient that no car or the cars, they don't drive over it. But in cases of emergency for firefighters, for example, they can cross about over these elements, and this is important. In cases of emergency, you can you just can drive over these elements, but in a normal situation, the car drivers, they don't cross about this element. So we have a kind of hopefully smart solution. This is also aesthetical. This is not that big aesthetic impact like this steel elements. So this is our and we tested this. Of course, our way of planning is testing, and we had good results with our 20 meters, and we hope that it will also work on maybe 2 kilometers and 20 kilometers and maybe 200 kilometers. So.
Okay, thank you, Felix. I will now give the word to Bas de Geus from VUB Mobi.
Yeah, good everybody. Good night. Thanks for the invitation and thanks for the inspiring talk. I have like 3, let's say, main remarks that I also see appearing in the chat. So I hope that I can bring those questions and messages to Berlin. And my first is about the model share, because I saw figures as 17% cars, 29% public transport, and 21% cyclists. And so my first question is like, has it always been this division, or were there more cars, and how much time did it took to have so many bicyclists? And I ask the question because if you compare it to the Netherlands or Ghent, for example, or probably also Leuven, we know it took 20 years or 30 years to have an increase, an important increase in cyclists. So that was my first question, how it is going in Berlin. And then another one, I think you will get more questions from the chat about it. It's of course about the court cases. And my question is like, you seem to be quite, let's say, direct. So you say, we try and then we just build it. We take away the parking space. Well, of course, you get a lot of opposition against that. The more you push people, well, I don't know in Berlin, but at least in Brussels, if you push too much, people react very negatively. And so my question is like, how did you include those opposing, and how did you got the dialogue with people who you think that were not so happy about all those bicycle paths? Because I think Germany is a car city, so you must have a car country, so you must have opposition against it. How do you deal with this opposition? And then, so that's situation in the past, now, and then I have a question about the future, because if you look at for example, the Netherlands, and if you talk to people from, for example, Fietsersbond, they say, okay, it's good to have separated bicycle paths, like you showed here on the main road, separated, big green blocks, SUV proof. But I hope, and I think, and that's also what Tim says, maybe not on the biggest main roads, but on the quieter roads, that at a certain moment we will come to a situation where we don't need separation anymore, but if we can decrease the speed of all road users, at least in the city centers, in a way to discourage car use even more. Because if you have those fast lanes and people can go fast from A to B with their car, they will never have the intention to change their habits. But if you decrease the main speeds and take away the separations, what do you think about that? Would it be the next step for Berlin? Those were my three main interventions.
In 2002, first the modal split in 2013, we had I think we had 13% cyclists and nearly 26 or 27% cars. So we have a lot of change from 2013 till now. And we believe that, of course, the mobility decision every inhabitants of our district and our city took every day is, of course, depends on the decisions the local authorities make when they offer new infrastructure. So in the past, we were very slow in developing and constructing new infrastructure, and because we have a young and ecological oriented population, and the people, they chose the cycle, the bikes as a very important transport, and when we just accelerate our planning and offering of new and good cycle infrastructure, we believe that we can, of course, give much more speed into these decisions on every day. So we came from 27% cars, and now under 20%. And of course, we will reduce the space for cars, and we will give more space for cyclists and pedestrians. So, and then, if I understand your question right, of course, the aim or the vision should be that you can move freely and safely in the public space without concrete and without steel or without heavy protection. Of course, this should be the vision of the cities. The situation right now is the car drivers in the middle, or in the most, or a lot of too much car drivers, they don't follow the rules, the traffic rules. They are just traffic rules seems to not to exist for a lot of car drivers. So we have to build safe infrastructure, and of course we also need a change of mindset of the car drivers, as of all the people have to change the way of how to move and how to react in the public space when they use traffic systems. So of course the vision should be that we have free public space, free movement of all these kinds of traffic, and we don't have to build this heavy infrastructure to protect the one type of movement or how to move from the other. But right now we need them. We need protection. We need to separate them. And of course, I would follow your vision. That is not necessary in one very far day. Yeah. And how we manage the participation of the people they are affected by our construction works when we build new infrastructure and when we terminate the parking possibilities. Of course, we have a lot of discussion. We have a lot of arguing against that. We have, as I told you, we have this legal action against our cycle lanes, temporary cycle lanes. And of course, we have, as I said, we have this legal basis. We have the Berlin mobility law. So, and in 2018, there was a very, very hard discussion in the city. Is this mobility law a good law for the city, or is it a wrong law for the city? So this is discussion on the base of the city has taken place. It's nearly over. So, and as administration, we have to follow laws. So this is my daily doing. Yeah, I have to follow some rules and some laws. So we just say, okay, this is our aim, and we just have to build right now. And then we are very clear. And in my opinion, it's a good thing to be very strict, to be very clear. Okay, these parking places will disappear, and we will build new types of infrastructure there. And we offered, as I said, we offered garage places. They have to pay for these garage places, and only a very few people use this opportunity. But we were very, very clear. We had a communication policy that was very, very often very clear. And then, in my opinion, of course, we have these discussions. And if you have a good manner how you just represent, you're obliged to bring more safety to the people. If you just give good arguments in the debate, you get not a whole sufficient public opinion. Of course, we have this discussion right now every day. We have emails and we have a lot of things. We have to react every day, but we have also a lot of positive reaction, and you have to choose if you will follow this way and not to just to put the negative or the arguments away. But we are not in a situation that you can't react anymore. We have like I said, with this strict and with this very clear handling of a way how we communicate our doing, we have in the result we have a manageable communication situation. And the last thing, the card.
Felix, I think Tim wants to react
Yeah.
to this point, so I want to give him the opportunity to
Yeah,
react,
no,
to reflect.
I don't know if you hear me now. Yes, I have a strong reaction to both the approach in Berlin and Brussels regarding the really complete focus on the infrastructure. And what I mean by this is what was very powerful within the COVID time was that the politicians could take very quick, very strong decisions. And it has been done both in the Brussels region and in Berlin. You have been replacing parking places or car lanes by bicycle infrastructure in a temporary situation. And the decision or the infrastructure measures which you took were effective. What I mean by this is it is safe. It's in the engineerical approach safe. In Brussels, you see concrete walls. In Berlin, you see these specific things when you crash with your bike. Yeah, you really crash. I don't have a problem with that in a temporary situation. But within these COVID times, what we miss in these very strong and quick decisions which we need is the public consultation and the approach of real urban designers. If in the permanent situation, we succeed in lifting up the quality of the public space and keep in mind that the traffic safety is still under control, then you have realized top quality cycle infrastructure. But now we are in the temporary situation where we have the space and where we have a very ugly but safe cycle lane. So I hope when after COVID times, because this will be a huge challenge, the politicians have learned and have smelled the power of making decisions without public consultation. I hope after COVID time that public consultation and thinking with urban designers how we would like to see our public space in a permanent situation will again take control. So that's my concern. And I also hear it a little bit in the discussion that, okay, we are now doing the infrastructure. Also in Brussels, yeah, we have the Rue de la Loi. It's okay that we did it, but the next step is how you would like to see it as a nice urban space.
Yes, thank you, Tim, for this reflection. And we are pleased to have among us an urban designer of a certain quality. So I think this is a good bridge to Roland Dudel to reflect on this and to ask his questions. But I also think he has some things to contribute about this imagining and designing public space.
Yes, for sure. Thanks, Tim. So thanks also, Felix, for your presentation. I liked it quite a lot because actually I really enjoyed your attitude, your standpoint in this challenge. But you were talking about an agile administration, and I was always told that this is a contradictio in terminis, kind of a paradox, an impossible situation to expect administrations to be agile. But who knows? Who knows that it is possible? And that would be really a big step forward. And I'm sure that people within administrations are also eager to make that happen, but it's not always easy. But let's hope that your optimism is really also a virus that will spread in the whole world. But yeah, indeed, I wanna zoom out a little bit because I'm an architect. And at the Architecture Workroom in Brussels, we take this spatial perspective on these societal transitions. We're really concerned about how things come together in the space, in the streets, in the neighborhoods, in an urban space. And I was already very happy that you were mentioning climate goals as part of your presentation. Which already brings in another societal challenge, another transition that is crucial. But in our opinion, road safety goes hand in hand with many other societal transitions, because every of those transitions has an impact on public space. So it's about giving space to the active modes of mobility, but also reintroducing new forms of caring about each other, new forms of collectivity in public space, making a space both child-friendly as accessible for elderly people, about making more green in the city, taking away concrete, de-hardening the space so water management can be done in a better way. So it is an important contribution to face the heat island effect in cities when climate is warming up. So I could go on. It's about so many things at the same time, and how are we going to get there? So I was very happy that I saw in one of the last images the future orientation is about much more than about cycle lanes. It's about a completely different public space. And we also I agree that, or we are convinced that the zero vision, no traffic victims anymore, has benefit to work together with all those other challenges at the same time, and to realize really an urban project, an image of a city that we want to realize all together, that is way more adapted to many challenges, including traffic safety. So to get to a question and a debate maybe about it, but people often have difficulties doing many things at the same time, especially administrations and politicians. Politicians are focusing on the next thing to answer, not on how it all comes together on the long run. So how do you organize that in Kreuzberg, in Berlin, at the governance level? Huh? So how do you realize in the end how it all comes together? And how do you, for instance, pool all the public investments to realize all these challenges at the same time as fast as possible? So from a governance point of view, and then also from a societal point of view, is there initiatives on co-producing the future of that city with citizens, which is also something that can create awareness and appropriation of citizens to this future image? And there were reactions in the chat that I can follow. The image of the dream that was presented is still a dream. It's not yet a reality. So how are we going to prepare 100 more years of traffic safety, and not only a crisis solution? So is this something that in Berlin is also dynamics about working together on many things at the same time in order to make that shift in our imagination of the future of the city?
Yes, of course. I showed you this picture of these playground streets, and we developed this with local initiatives. And we, of course, I totally agree with you that we don't only have the builded open space, the public space. We also have the social public space, and we have the society that is using this public space and has ideas and problems. Of course, in the Corona crisis, we have increasing of social problems in our population. We have a lot of unsheltered people and so on. It's a lot of problems. But for example, this small example of these 19 playground streets every Sunday, no cars or only parking cars. It was some kind of discussion, and it was very easy, that was very hard to remove that cars. But we had this vision. Okay, one Sunday there's a playground streets, and the no car is moving anymore, and we can experience this. I call it the open land. Yeah. Normally we experience the public space. 65% is used by cars, parking cars, moving cars. Danger situation for nearly everybody, but not the car drivers. Of course, they are protected with their cars, but all the other people, they use the pedestrians and so on. They are in danger. So, and then we put real situation, but temporary situations with these playground streets, but also with our cycle lanes temporarily, and we give a picture how the public space could redistribute it in another way, and then I call it the open land. Yeah, in that moment you can see another public space, and you can get an imagination how this public space could look like maybe in 5 years or whatever. If you bring money into the public administration and you just give great impact to build infrastructure, green infrastructure, social infrastructure. We have so much space in our cities. We have so much opportunities, but we lost to see them. We lost the clear sight on this open land in our cities. We just lost that. And then when we give temporary impacts, when we temporarily redistribute our cities, we have another discussion. We have people who just don't discuss from this point of thinking like it's now. They can see and they can have the experience in this redistributed temporarily public space. And then this is also my answer, how we give participation in these processes. Then we can discuss in another way with the people. We can just ask them, the people, is it okay if we just bring that temporary infrastructure or that temporary arrangement of public space into a permanent? And then this is our way of participation. We ask, should that be removed or should that be permanently? So this is the way of testing, and the way of tactical doing things is also a new way of participation and discussion and dialogue with the population and with the society in our cities. And of course, this is agile administration. And I would say, in my opinion, agility should only is not only a thing for, of course, IT programmers and so on. It's also a method for public administration and for the society to think together for the transforming of the public space.
And what about those administrations? Because what about policy participation? Sometimes in urban transformation programs that we are dealing with, it's not only about involving the citizens. Sometimes the citizens already have a strong image, but sometimes it's very difficult for the administrations to compose out of the ingredients that they can offer, the tools they have. They have a lot of money, but one has money for renovating sewage system. Somebody else has money for building a parking building. Somebody else has money for this and for road safety. Are there initiatives to bring that all together and also to create a policy image of the city where all things can come together, and not only a dream within the heads of the citizens?
as you said, I'm head of parks and greens, and streets. So of course, I'm also a part of the public administration. But for example, we are just right now building up a new department in my under department in my administration, and it's called public space. Yeah, we just this is a new way of rebuilding our administration. We want to bring this co-production you mentioned. We want to bring new ways of temporarily testing redistribution of public space. We want to give a resource of manpower into that co-production with the citizens of the public space. Our problem is we have not enough people to discuss so much. We are just a building administration right now, and we want to rebuild our administration into an administration that has enough manpower to discuss and to develop together with the citizens the public space. This is a vision, and we are just starting this process right now. And but yeah, we have to rebuild not also our public spaces, but also our public administration for this huge thing to bring the whole cities into a transition process. The actual public administration is unfit to do so, or not fit enough to do so. And we have to change, of course, a lot of thinking in the administration and a lot of how to plan into the administration. And we had a lot of good examples and a lot of very engaged colleagues. And we had a lot of very, very good examples in the whole in European cities and the whole world. I feel that we are just right now through the Corona crisis in a moment of just starting to move into a new way of transfer our cities into a better livable spaces. Of course, this is a very optimistic and very maybe naive vision, but yeah, I'm a very normal chief of an administration, and I talk to my people right in that way I talk to you right now. So I hope it works.
Okay. Thank you, Felix. There's a lot of reaction in the chat box, so I think we need to go there. I know, Florine, you wanted to react to some things that have been said. Can you do it very shortly, and then we have to move to the chat box because there's fascinating discussion going on there as well. Your microphone.
Yeah, I was good. Thank you. In Brussels, it was not only bicycle. At first, we reclaimed space because of the crisis, of course, but space for people. And there was projects made by citizens and municipalities to give space to people, shared zones, pedestrian zones, not only cycle lanes. But I don't know, maybe it was the most visible, and the debate just switched from air quality, road safety, less noise, and good quality of life in the city. It just switched to cars versus cyclists. And now we just, I think maybe the journalists also like this kind of fight, and we try to get out of this and say we need people, we need place for people. 60% of the space is dedicated to cars, and I think it's half of the households in Brussels that don't have a car. So yeah, there is a very strong ground to ask for more space for people. But just right now, we're just glued with we stick with this fight between cyclists and cars. And I don't know if you experience that. Maybe your modal share of cycling is much higher than ours. So maybe you don't experience that. I don't. Maybe you can. explain what happened
yes,
in
as I showed
Berlin?
you when I showed you the modal split, of course, this is a part of the explanation to your answer because we have right now only 17% car users in our district, and of course they are right now in minority. So and of course that eases the discussion a bit, but we of course we have the same discussion. We have also cars versus cyclists and pedestrians. And our way to answer that is a very clear point of thinking, of a very clear standpoint, and a vision, what we can reach if we are very strict in our measurements. And the point to reach is vision 0. The point to reach is good and livable spaces, and the point to reach is maybe I call it a better working neighborhood, of course, because we have place for social infrastructure and so on. And of course, you have to discuss in a way that your standpoint is very clear, and that you also bring every time you have to bring the vision, and you have to show how the vision could work, and you have to bring good examples. That is what we mean. That is what we want to reach, and that of course we have strong pressure groups, car users, the German car club, for example. Of course, they took legal action against our plans, and they want to bring us into this cars against cycle discussion. And then we answer, we don't have anything against cars. We just want to bring safety into the roads, and we just to make public space more livable. But and so for that reason, the other belongings of the public space need their own space. So, and what can you say against that? You can say, okay, I want to have my own parking place, like I park every day there. So this is, and we call that like it is. It is an egocentric way of thinking, and this doesn't suit to a modern view of on public spaces. And they have to say that. Yeah, they have to say, okay, in the future, as I said, you have to pay for public parking. Yeah, you have to, and we want to reduce public parking a lot, and we want to reduce car space for cars, of course. But we are just doing it not because we are against cars, but we have to regain areas for the other very important belongings, for children, for older people, for other stuff. Yeah. So yeah. And at the end of the day, of course, you have to we call it a thick skin. Yeah, you have to of course you have to be very robust and very it's of course it's not every time easy. So not a perfect answer, but an answer.
Yes, thank you, Felix. We are experiencing some technical problems here in the studio, so I was a bit out for a moment, but I think it's now time to go to our chat. And I think, well, you already mentioned it a few times. We saw quite some question on the court case, especially on how ready you are and where you are based on or what arguments you are based on. I think this is something that particularly interests us in Brussels because we have a similar court case or also a court case against the Corona bike lanes. So I think what kind of experiences are there in Berlin? I notice legal frameworks are often different, but I think it's also just for the audience at home to better explain what it's about and what is hanging.
Yeah, our we had we lose the first. We had one legal action against 8 of our pop-up bike lanes, and in the first round, the first court, we had the right-wing party in Berlin, the AfD, and they took legal action against our pop-up bike lanes, and then the first round they won, because we have a very, very car-friendly traffic law in Germany. It's called the Straßenverkehrsordnung, and we just arranged this public this pop-up bike lanes with a term 55.9 of this traffic law, and there's written down that we have to argue why we reduce the area for cars, why we reduce the fluently car traffic for cycle lanes. We have to give reasons for every meter of infrastructure, so-called, which is a problem for fluent car traffic. So, and then the court said, okay, you just don't give enough reasons and arguments to prove that this is necessary for example for safety. So the problem is that we have we just couldn't say, okay, we just can't say we have a network of cycle lanes and we want to build this network. Then we have to give for every meter an answer why it's necessary to do so at that situation to reduce the traffic, the car traffic. So that was the first round, and then at the second round we give an answer, and we just said, okay, now we can prove it, and we give more. We give data and a lot of data of car accidents, and we have danger measurement in our streets, so we can measure which streets are danger for pedestrians and cyclists and so on. So we give much more data than we were doing this when in March, in April and May, when we just built up these cycle lanes. There was a very short explanation for the legal for our cycle lanes, and then we just give enough data. So at the next round, the court says, okay, that is sufficient to argue that the cycle lanes are necessary. So that's the whole thing.
Okay, thank you. There's a question from Gideon Boy about the role of citizen movement and activism in Berlin, because we are talking a lot about opposition, about people opposing, but did you also experience, like, apart from the nice picture you showed with Danke, is there also like groupings that rally in favor of your measures, and how does that help you to get things installed?
Yeah, of course, we have quite a lot of positive reaction from organized and unorganized society groups, and that helps, of course, a lot, because it gives motivation to me, to my people, and it is also inspiring us, and of course it gives backup, because as an administration we have our rules, and we have to do what our day work, and these other activist groups, it's a council. It's we call it a mobility council of our district, and a lot of activists are in that council, and we just discuss every month with them which action we will organize in the next round, in the next month, and we just don't ask them if we should do so, but we inform them, and we get a lot of detailed information and good tips how to do it, and we just had partly very, very deep discussion on certain points, and that gives us the opportunity to make our plannings better, sufficient for everybody, and to communicate it in a better way, of course. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of questions in the Facebook. I don't think we will have time to treat them all. I will take one from Karen Sass now, who was talking about this difference between spatial split and modal split, and the reasons behind this difference. She suggested that maybe financial aspects that play the price of driving, the price of parking, etc. Do you have any figures or numbers on that, or any reflections on that?
I don't understand the question right now. What?
So why is there like a reason behind this this difference? The price of driving is high, the cost of driving a car, and so the
Tim, maybe
yes,
I didn't get the point.
I also don't get the point completely, but I don't believe that that's the reason why the space the space for cars is much higher than the space for bikes. It's just in the last 20 years a clear decision of policy, and that there is more space for the car. It has really, in my opinion, nothing to do that the car is giving more money for an authority or is costing more or less. It's a clear decision that 15 to 20 years ago, there was a complete other policy context that the car was the solution for everything. And so what I also see in the chat discussion, or also in the discussion of today, for me, the biggest elephant in the room, and in that perspective, I really am fun. I really appreciate the guts which has been taken in Berlin, but also the guts which has been taken in Brussels. In Berlin, I saw they have built a temporary bicycle lane. No problem at all to build that. But it replaced 250 parking places. Also in Brussels, I saw some of these decisions, and of course there is now a huge opposition from the car believers. That's normal. It is also not a problem that this is happening. But like Felix was explaining, if you as a policymaker explain why you take these decisions, then you are right. You are elected to explain why you are taking decisions. And the elephant in the room is really the parking space on public domain for cars. And I really mean what I see in Brussels and in Berlin. This is really front-running political decisions in reallocation of public space. I just compare it to Leuven. A lot of people in this chat room, they think, oh, in Leuven, what they do, we never do it in Brussels. But I can explain that regarding the plan which we have been implementing in Leuven, the traffic circulation plan, which had a huge impact to modal shift, where we changed from 2,000 bicycle parking places on public domain to 4,000 in 1 year time. We changed from 5,000 parking places for cars to 4,900. So where did we took the space of these 2,000 extra bicycle parkings, we took the space not from the car park. And I always explain it with the metaphor of a bread. You have a bread and you have some bread crumbles. We took the bread crumbles to reallocate the space for bicycle parking, and we took some space from the pedestrians. But we never sliced the bread. Also in Leuven, we didn't slice the bread regarding space for car parking. And that is what I see in Berlin and in Brussels. You do it. So that is for me really an eye-opener. I want to take this with me to explain we have now to slice the bread also in Leuven, because only playing on the level playing field of the bread crumbles to reallocate public space for pedestrians and cyclists, and that's really, yeah, that should not be the case.
Okay, thank you, Tim, for reacting to that.
One additional thing from me.
Yes, Felix?
Interesting story on the side. We are also we just construct every year from 700 to 1,000 parking places for cyclists, bicycles, and we have one rule: never bring a cycle parking place on pedestrian land, only on parking places for cars. So, and we can show that one car there's a parking place for one car, and 6 to 8 parking places for bicycles is possible on the same place. So we have the whole discussion for the opportunities and the efficiency of traffic systems in one parking place. 1, 2, 8 or 12 if we do it in a good way, and we have a certain way of constructing them. We have the whole discussion in one parking place. It's more efficient. It's better. It's for more people, yeah, and not only for one car user. So this is our way how we construct cycle places.
Thank you. I'm going to take 2 more questions, I think, from what we have in the Facebook chat, because we are running towards the end. But I think one is also in related to the financial issues, and it's about a question from Wiet van Dalen: is there been a link made in Berlin between gentrification and cycling? And Dirk Lauwers adds to that the question about the profile, the sociological profile of cyclists in Germany. Is everybody cycling in Germany, or do you also have this association with certain groups in society which manifests for this kind of changes?
Yeah. Yeah, of course we have this. We have a very strong discussion on that point. Just a moment. Can you see me? We have a very strong discussion on that point. In the first term, I always say we are a traffic administration, but of course we have to react on the things. And then I say, of course, we have the question: how is public space and the reallocation and the redesign of public space is pushing gentrification? And in my belief, my personal believing, the public space is a very, very low factor for gentrification. The most factor for gentrification is, of course, the question how you can, for what prices you can rent a flat. So it's very simple, yeah. And every political discussion has to bring their solutions for the answers. And our district is very strict on give limits to rents for flats, and we also are very strict for investors. They want to buy flats and houses, renovate them, and higher or increase the rents for the flats a lot. We have a very strict policy on that. It's not in my administration, but in the city building administration, and we are very strict on that field. Yeah, and the other thing is, I believe we have a lot of poor population in our district, and these people, they can't afford vacations in other cities or countries. They can't. They don't have an own car. Yeah, so they need good public space. This is a question of justice, of environmental justice, to deliver them, to bring them good designed, healthable, livable, open public space. So in my belief, we have to redesign the public spaces also for questions of environmental justice.
Okay, one last question I'm going to take from the audience is from Renat van Hoof, which takes us a bit back also to the discussion about sideways and the main roads, but he looks at it as in an all other way. His contribution was, isn't it possible to reduce the number of main roads for cars? So instead of making some of the main streets good for cyclists without constructing cycling lanes, but making them really like car free. So really make it like a cycle infrastructure on the main roads, which then can become complete only for cyclists.
The answer is step by step, but very fast. Yeah, we just can like Tim said, we are just now eating the bread crumbles, and we are just in the next step we are discussing how to split the bread, and then of course we have to discuss how to eat the whole bread. Yeah, so but not eating the whole bread when we are now just in the stadium of just picking the crumbles. So we have to be very fast, we have to be very clear, but we also have to be realistic. And of course, I could imagine car-free, a whole car-free inner city of Berlin. We'll just have a strong discussion on that. So, but we have to give examples how the measurements and the way to that vision could be, and what's realistic, and how we can speed up all the measurements, but not just arguing or lowering the good examples when we say, okay, that's not enough because we have to be totally car-free tomorrow. That's not realistic. Realistic is one step, very fast, next step, very fast, temporary development of measurements, and then, of course, a vision of car-free or mostly car-free cities to bring green areas, to bring safety, to bring livable inner cities or cities. That should be the vision, and that should be a path to describe for the near future, but not for tomorrow, maybe. Yeah. So that, of course, that is a part I have to argue here as a head of a department that have to organize the work tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that's also a very clear message, and that's also something that I want to ask now to our Brussels panelists or Belgian panelists. One sentence, one takeaway message from this for us in Brussels. Tim, Asperges, please.
I just take it from one of the chat's reactions. Never waste a good crisis. I really believe that what is being done now was because of the COVID gave a catalyst boost, and just never waste a good crisis. Really go ahead and make it permanent.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Bas? Your microphone, Bas.
My one sentence would be continue slicing the bread, but keep the dialogue open so that everybody can enjoy the meal.
Nice one. Florine?
Yeah, one funny thing, it's we already had the discussion, so now it's time to act. And I think with the Good Move plan, we already had the discussion, so now it's time to act in Brussels too.
Good. Thank you, Florine. And Roland?
Yes, I would like to pick in on the good vibes, but maybe we don't need to split the bread. Maybe we have to bake a cake with a lot of fruit and chocolate and whipped cream on top of it. So I think that we do not only need another traffic situation for today, and it has been said a lot, but we need another image, another imaginary for our public space, a public space that is shared, that is inclusive, and that is a real collective urban space. And I think we can have a discussion in this, with all these good things happening, with all these people ready for another future. For the next 100 years, we can have a discussion on what kind of city we want. And I'm convinced that safe space for every user that is living and working in the city will always be part of such a city. So let's just continue dreaming and also doing.
Yes, thank you, Roland. We are the end of this evening. I'd like to thank Felix for, in first instance, for its contribution, his lecture, his words. I think I can thank you also with the words that I read somewhere in the chat, and it's also been said here from Kadri Sova, who says, "I love your attitude, Felix. We need more civil servants like this." I think that's a good conclusion for Brussels also, but also for you, and it's been inspiring this evening. I also like to thank our panelists, Roland, Florine, Tim, and Bas. Thank you. Your insights, your reflections have been very, very, very welcome and very, very good here tonight. And then I like to thank all of you at home also for the Facebook discussion. As I guess everyone who was here participating in this room in discussion should also look there, because there's fascinating discussion going on there. We were not able to pick up all of the elements there, but I think it proves that it's something that's really living in Brussels and that people are passionate about it. And this for me, I hope this will indeed help to make the bread, cut the bread, bake it into a cake, and so on, and make something new with it. We are at the end of our 3 seminars about road safety in other cities as part of the trajectory for the other atelier, and inspiring the Brussels new road security plan. We thank you for all who have been listening and who have been watching and who have been contributing. We will take this all together into a Horizon Atelier, which will take place in January. We keep you posted on that, and a lot of people can contribute on what will we do now with this, and how will we tell this to the Brussels administration on how to change the city, not only for road security, but also for climate, air pollution, public qualitative public space. I thank you all, and good evening.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.